Dankie dat jy genoeg in Suid-Afrika glo om te doen wat jy doen.
Dat jy opstaan nog voor die son op is.
Vir my boardminiepap vir skool.
Dankie dat jy uitgehou het deur elke droogte.
Dankie dat jy vir ons 'n toekoms gee.
Welkom terug by Groot Plaas en vanoggend gesels ons oor die ongelooflike diere wat aasvoëls is. Saam met my in die ateljee is Alistair Sinclair. Hy is die algemene bestuurder by Walpro en ook een van die opvoeders, Clarence, wat saam met ons kuier vanoggend. Guys, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for inviting us.
So firstly, let's start off. Tell us a little bit about what exactly is Walpro.
Walpro is an organization, an NPC, dedicated to the conservation, rescue, rehabilitation, research, which is really important, and education about vultures in South Africa. So we rescue vultures throughout Southern Africa. We educate as well. We monitor and do research on vultures right through South Africa.
So one of the biggest things is vulture numbers have been on the decline. And that's one of the reasons you guys decided to start with the education process. Why have the vultures numbers been declining?
There's numerous factors. One of them is poisoning. So there'll be intentional poisoning. For example, poachers don't want vultures in the sky because they indicate where their activities are. So they will try and poison a carcass to eliminate the vultures in areas. We're seeing this a lot in the Lowveld, for example. You've also got where there's accidental poisoning, where a farmer will put down a poison carcass to kill off a marauding lion or hyena or whatever, and then the vultures are the ones that come down, eat it and die. You get lead poisoning from bullets, lead bullets that is happening. Another serious threat to them is power lines. There's a lot of collisions. I'd say probably 80% of our patients at the moment are from power line collisions. And then you also get reservoirs. For example, vultures are clean. People think they are dirty animals. They're not. The exact opposite. So especially in the arid areas, they'll come down, sit on a reservoir, want to drink, land in the reservoir and can't get out. We had a case exactly like this a week ago in Botswana, where one of our vultures that was tracked actually landed inside a reservoir and drowned. They're not ducks. They can't, once in the water, they can't get out. So those are the chief reasons.
So you mentioned the poachers, and they are one of the main sources for the decline in the vulture numbers. But specifically with those types of situations where the poachers are in the field, they have animals that are lying around, the vultures do give them away. How much does that affect the numbers? How often do you see numbers decline due to poaching?
If one looks at the last month, where we had, well over 200 birds in the northern parks of Kruger Park, and we had 103 in Lionsspruit, which is near Marlof Park. If you look at that, those are huge numbers that are being killed in one go, and they weren't for the so-called muti trade. Muti trade is the traditional medicines where they do use the vultures for different reasons. All those animals were intact. So that was clearly poaching. It had nothing to do with like the muti trade. So it's a significant impact. A power line collision would be one bird, or maybe 10, 2 or 3, where these poisonings are a whole flock of them, or a committee of them gone.
Well, Clarence, maybe you can tell us a little bit more. I know Alistair now mentioned the muti trade, and that's one of the main things that you guys see is that the vulture parts are being used for various other reasons. But what do these people who use the vulture parts expect to gain from, consuming body parts of vultures?
There are a lot of people, they have different beliefs. Some of them, they say when you sniff vulture's brain, you will just dream about your future. You will see your future. And then there are some of them, they eat vulture's eyes. They say they will also see their future. Vultures, they've got a good eyesight. Yeah, so those are the beliefs that they have, and then, it's not even proven. Yes.
But there's no way that I can maybe get into a vulture pod that's going to help me with my finances.
Yeah,
That's what they believe.
yes,
That's
some of them they say they can
Prosperity.
win lotto, they can, like when they play soccer, they will win. So different beliefs, yeah.
So in the Muti trade, how many birds are we losing a year?
Well, the numbers vary, but you know there's no definite number. There are in eastern parts of South Africa, you know, they're looking at about 160, but if realistically, you're probably looking at way above 400, 500 birds per year. And that's a lot, you know, exponentially, if you take that for breeding, that's a lot of birds that we're losing every single year.
So let's talk about the breeding program, because you guys decided on an educational initiative at Blouberg Nature Reserve in Limpopo. Why specifically there?
Specifically Blouberg because it's one of the highest colonies, breeding colonies, and what we're finding, there is, you know, more and more settlements going up around it, and there is quite a heavy booty trade in that area. So it was to try and educate the community to rather protect the vultures, rather than allow them to be sold off, and we know that was happening, sold off to the Muti trade. So that was the main focus.
So it's probably a good idea to just understand what the breeding cycle is of a vulture, so we know, you know, how long it's going to take to get these numbers back. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, you know, the vultures pair up for life. So it's
a Wimpy and a Tunny vulture.
It's a Wimpy and a Tunny vulture,
and that's
there.
Stuck forever. Ball and chain.
They and they only breed, will lay an egg once a year.
Okay.
And they only start, you know, becoming sexually mature around about six years. So it takes a long time to get there. And then it's like, you know, one a year out of every 2 vultures. It's a long, long time. So every time we have a loss, it's a major loss.
So it takes time to make those numbers up again. And that's why you guys decided to start educating, especially the area where the breeding takes place. And I really like this. You call it Vulture, which is Vulture Champions. And this started in 2023, specifically targeting schools and education with the younger people. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, yeah. For that one, the education where we have Vulture Champions. So there are 4 schools around the Blouberg that we are dealing with at the moment, but there are only 2 schools that we managed to give them T-shirts. So 16 T-shirts, 8 T-shirts for the Boy Kucho Primary, and then 8 T-shirts for Maroma Fasi Secondary School. So what we do, those ones we tell them to write a poem about a vulture, about vultures. Some of them they can just draw a vulture. And then some of them, you know, they're not good with writing or drawing. They just, you can see they answer questions when you are busy presenting. So on those ones, we just choose the best 8. And then those best 8, we give them T-shirts. And then the best 5, we give them T-shirts and caps. And then also after that, we take them to Blouberg, inside Blouberg Nature Reserve. Because they are staying next to the nature reserve, but they don't know what is going on.
They've never been inside.
Yeah, so we are taking them inside because we want them, when they come back, they will tell their friends that when you find a grounded vulture, you must just report to, there is a guy that they are going to report to him, and they said, no, we have this vulture. Can you please call Blouberg Nature Reserve or call Valpro? And then they will just come back and tell their friends, and then after that, they will just get vultures from their side.
So with this initiative and speaking to the children and asking them to write a poem and draw a picture, have you seen that there was some kind of disconnect of in terms of what they understand and what the animals actually do?
Absolutely, and this is where we've got a full-time educational intern up there.
Yes.
What we found was, you know, it's the same as anywhere else. The vultures was just seen as a symbol of death.
Yes.
And they were also seen as monetary value.
Yeah.
The environmental consequences was changed. So some of our successes that we had prior to 2023, there was 0 birds coming into Valpro for rehabilitation or rescue. The first season, 9 came in. You know, that's a huge jump from 0 to 9 in a very short period of time. And now we've increased that education, and we even getting the community to report things like poaching that's going on and so forth, which is really fantastic. Where in the past, everybody just kept quiet because they were just taking the money for the birds that had been grounded.
So tell us about the rehabilitation process, because you said you started in the first year, you had 9, and you call them patients. What kind of treatment do you see these birds that they need to go through?
So very often what we're finding, for example, in Blouberg, not power line collisions in Blouberg, is by the time the birds get to us, they are extremely dehydrated. They've been kept in a plastic bag or in a box or something, in somebody's homestead, waiting for the middleman to come and collect them, if I can put it that way. We also find that they're bound. So they will be bound up that their legs and wings can't move, and with that cuts off circulation. So we've had some birds that have been paralyzed because of it. And then naturally you've got bad physical handling where we have had breaks of legs and wings. So those then have to come to us for serious, veterinary treatment.
Do the poachers contribute to this with the snaring issue, that the birds do get caught in some of these snares?
There have been a few occasions of that, but it's mainly they will often go and collect the babies out of the nest, or when the babies fledge, when they're ready to leave home. Some of them aren't quite strong enough, so they will land on the ground and then can't get off the ground, and that's where the majority are taken.
So Alistair, tell us about why it's important to conserve these birds, and what exactly is their spot in the ecosystem?
So they are the primary, how can we say, cleanup crew. So if we remove the vultures from the environment, which has happened in places, what we'll have is carcasses that are just left lying in the field. And with vultures, it's been noted that their cleanup of a carcass is 3 times quicker than any other animal, if we can put it that way. And if we do lose these vultures, what will happen? The carcasses will rot. We will have other scavengers coming in, such as feral dogs. We all know what happens with feral dogs. They get rabies. Rabies then spreads to humans. So that's a serious issue, both veterinary as well as medically. And then you also have things like anthrax, brucellosis, your Miltziekte, foot and mouth as well, anthrax, that the stomach juices, if I can put it that way, of a vulture can digest. So without that, you are going to have the spread of disease, and that will have a huge impact on the farming community, because the red line is going to move further south, and the farmers won't be able to export food, their meat products, which naturally affects not only themselves but also their workers and the community around them. So there are huge implications. You also have, for example, when the vultures are eating at a carcass, they'll be throwing titbits out. And you've got other animals coming and eating off of those titbits. Without the vultures, those animals can't survive. So the impact would be huge. It's happened in India, where they lost, due to diclofenac, they lost 95% of their vulture population, and disease just went rife. Rabies jumped from 35,000 to 105,000 cases in a year. That's it's scary.
Just once again showing how important they are in the bigger picture of everything,
Absolutely.
So, I want to talk to you about the current program that you guys are busy with. Tell us about the immediate successes that you've seen.
So the immediate successes is that the community is starting to understand Vulpra and vultures. They are wanting to protect their vultures in the colony. So have
they taken, almost ownership of the vultures in the area?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, a lot, yeah. It's a big change here.
Clarence, now, I know you initially said that you have a love for birds and wildlife,
yes,
but you're one of the educators now at Volpro.
Yes.
Why did you decide to get involved?
So where I'm coming from, that's where I see a lot of poaching. There are a lot of people that are poaching animals, like not only birds, animals and birds. So since I was still young, I was interested on birds. So that's the reason when I see a lot of people poaching them, I can say it's a big problem, because vultures, it's our life. So which means if we don't have vultures, which means our life is not complete. So that's the reason I just came up with this. I said no.
So Alistair, so what do you guys plan to do in the next 5 years? Where do you want to see this project go?
We actually want to extend it to different parts of Southern Africa, northern parts of Southern Africa. So we are in the process of identifying and investigating the options of actually spreading out. You know, we need to, wherever there's big colonies of birds, not only, for example, Cape vultures, which we have at Blouberg, but also our African whitebacks and our leopards, we need to increase our education in those areas. So that is the main focus. You know, we'll never stop. We'll never be able to stop something like this. It has to snowball, basically.
We need to keep the momentum going.
That's exactly, yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Guys, listen, thank you so much for the work that you do, and thank you for telling us a little bit more about vultures. I learned a little bit, especially about, you know, how they fit into the ecosystem, and I think that's so important. So really appreciate the work that you guys are doing at Volpro.
Thank you for the invite.